I'm going to be doing a little bit of a review for you, ryze mid. So what I like to do whenever I start replay reviews, VOD reviews, is at the start of the game to be going over win conditions. Win conditions is something that's really important to rehearse because it starts to let you know what the enemy team wants to do and what your team wants to do and where you need to get ahead and where you need to set up for rotations, where you need to set up for their roams, their like rotations. It shows you where you need to put your focuses. So let's see. Their team has an excellent amount of pick between the Zoe with her E over a wall, the Malphite with his ultimate, and then they have plenty of flash engages that they could get on you with. They also have a pretty solid team fight with an amazing front line between the Renekton, who's probably going to go pretty tanky, Xin Zhao, who's most of the time builds off tank, and a Malphite. So whenever you look at your team has two 80 carries. I hope the Jarvan builds tank, and a Riven. This means you have pretty good team fight, but your team fight is probably going to have trouble with their engage. I would be trying to play to where you always have vision on where the Zoe would be throwing her bubble over the wall, and me trying to have either a Varus ult on her or a Jarvan ult on her pretty early. In the split push lane, from what I understand, Renekton beats Riven early, and then as long as the Riven doesn't fall too far behind, she'll be able to come back. So if I was looking on what to do with my mid lane roams, I would probably be trying to focus top lane. In order for the Renekton to be winning the Riven lane, he's probably going to have to get a lot of armor early, and that's where I would be putting my roam focus. The bot lane has a good amount of setup with the Varus ult, but they also have a lot of disengage with the Tristana jump and ult. So I'm not sure if I would be trying to roam to that. Okay, so that tells you what your early game focus should be, right? In order to set up for a proper split push, and to keep it so that way you will have vision control where you need, which means that you need to be able to walk into their jungle behind these walls, you're going to need to get the Riven a little bit ahead. If you're ahead of the Zoe, you don't have a whole lot of engage potential if in a team fight situation. I don't think, at least. I admit I don't play a whole lot of ryze. I know your root requires you to land your E first to get the extended duration. I know your ult, if you use your ult to get to them, you might run into a Malphite, so I would not suggest ulting to engage unless you are chasing with it. But anyways, I don't think you have a whole lot of engage in a team fight situation. In a lane, you have probably a lot that could engage onto the Zoe, because you'll somehow get some ease on her. You know, in a standard laning phase, you'll be harassing. So you might be able to get ahead in lane. It's very, very necessary that you keep a lot of vision on where she's going to be bubbling you from. A lot of Zoes try and play behind these walls, and if you just ward one of them, like over here, and then you play towards the bottom side of your lane, she won't be able to hit you from the other side. That'll dodge a lot of her bubble engages, and that'll also let you still stay behind your minions more or less to avoid most of her Q poke. Once you get your ult, it changes a little bit, but not a whole lot. You said that you felt pretty comfortable with vision control and laning, so I'm not going to be going too much into that unless I see it as a problem. But predicting skill shots and stuff like that is something that really isn't that easy to cover in a review. I'll mention a couple of things with it, but a lot of that is knowing cooldowns and watching for those cooldowns. So for example, if the Malphite has ultimate, you need to be very aware of that. And sometimes that means you don't engage if you know that they're going to have follow-up right next to it. So let's say the Malphite and the Renekton were standing next to each other, and you were trying to hit the Renekton, and the Malphite still had ultimate, he can get on you, and then the Renekton can also get on you. Okay, so here's one of my favorite things to talk about too. I absolutely hate it whenever people stand under turrets like this. This is the equivalent of being AFK for the first minute of the game. In professional play, there is a huge emphasis on the first 2 minutes of the game, where jungles start getting early vision, figuring out whether or not you need to rotate somewhere, and preventing that. Whenever you're standing under your turret, you're doing absolutely nothing for your team. And if your logic is, oh, well, I'm just not going to die, by doing this, you allow for them to roam through your jungle and potentially get summoner spells, get kills, get your jungle's camp, which means your jungle's going to be behind. And if you get kills, if you get summoner spells, it could lead to more kills and summoner spells because all of a sudden they have an extra item in lane and an extra summoner spell, which means they get another kill, which now they have an XP lead, which means they get another kill. It's totally the easiest thing you can do in the first minute of the game to have vision here. All it takes is someone from your team, which it really should be you, to either ward this or stand here. And if you're not, then you're not doing everything in your power to win. And it's terrible if you're not doing everything in your power to win, and because you're seeking out mentoring in order to improve. And this is one of the simplest things, the simplest, easiest, most obvious things you could do to improve, to help your team win. And if you're not doing this, that means you simply don't care about winning every game, because this is giving up an early lead. This is feeding first blood. This is feeding jungle camps. It's snowballing the game. It's so easy. You need to be paying attention for the first minute of the game. 2 minutes of the game, it's super important. Standing over here like this is a terrible habit. You need to stop it. Luckily, your team catches them out for you while you're AFK. Not a good habit. Pick your music in queue. Pick your music during loading. Don't pick it during game. Respond to your girlfriend during loading, not during game. So whenever you see the Zoe roaming over here, it's a good chance to just get your push off. Zoe does not have very good wave clear. I would be trying to very hard push this lane. I don't see you throwing out any abilities. I would be trying to use abilities for it, because she's now very behind in lane. Actually, she stole that, which is hilarious, and this is probably why you were saying that level 2 blue buff Zoe, how do you deal with that? Well, one of the ways you deal with it is at level 1, if you push her in, she doesn't have that XP lead on you, because you'll hit level 2 at the same time as she hits level 2. She sacrifices the first wave to make this play, but you're not spending any mana on this wave, and you need to. You saw what she was doing, and you decided you were staying on the wave instead of going over to her. With that decision, it means you needed to push this wave. I agree with pushing this wave, but you were not pushing this wave. You were not. You had mana, you had abilities, and you were not pushing this wave. You need to. The Zoe walking over there, realistically, your jungler should have pulled the camp back, or even smited it, because he saw the Zoe, but you can't always, you can't play for your teammates. So sometimes stuff like that happens. And if you had vision control over here, remember earlier, and you warded, they probably would have stepped off, which means that they wouldn't have been able to even get that steal. They wouldn't have vision over here, Zoe wouldn't have felt the need to go over here. So there's a little punishment for your AFK early game. I disagree with starting root on Ryze. I don't know if that was your starting, but you really should be starting that ability. I don't know which one that is, but it helps you push, gets you the XP lead, and that was interesting too. There's no way you should have been able to pick up the kill there. Yeah, that's really disrespectful. That was incredibly disrespectful. So, going over for this partially means you don't know your champion's damage, but did she level up in the middle of that? She might have, actually. Yeah, she did hit level 3 right there, but you went in after she had hit level 3. Yeah, that was pretty disrespectful. The jungler just ganked. The best case scenario here is you would have traded 1 for 1. And if you had traded 1 for 1 here, sure, you got rid of her blue buff, which is great, but she has teleport. She's back to lane before you, which means she has even more of an XP lead. Whenever you do a play like this, It means you're not thinking of the consequences. Even if you had gotten this kill, which it was close, okay. Maybe if you had Ignite, you would have gotten that kill. But you would have died for it, for sure. You just use your flash to get over this wall. There was no reason to do this. This is a greedy play. And watch, he's going to teleport back to lane. You're going to walk. Actually, the wave's pushing really hard to you. There's no really reason to teleport. What the hell? She did teleport. No, she didn't. She's just stealing red buff. See, this is all because of your decisions. Over here, this jungle camp being taken by them, the reason Jarvan is forced out of his jungle is because it's a 2v1 situation. The reason it was a 2v1 situation is because you flashed over here and died. So, if any of your other lanes lose, like if top lane loses because she gets ganked now, and the jungler can't retaliate, this is because of your decisions that you also lost top lane, because the jungler can't respond. With your two decisions this game, you have lost the jungle for your jungle. And the jungle has impact on the entire map, just like what mid lane does. So that could snowball top lane, or it could snowball bottom lane. He gets to choose. Okay. You also don't actually have a lot of awareness here. You were saying that awareness is one of your strong suits. Well, you just saw the Xin stole red buff. You just saw Zoe up here, and you're not putting down your wards to help with this push. After you had pushed in this minion wave, to stay for this is another greedy play. Because if you're going to stay for this play, there is really high odds you're going to get ganked. Really high odds. Xin Zhao could come over here. You have no flash. You have low mana. Zoe might not have come for this, but she could have recalled and teleported to a ward that they put down and been here for a gank. This is a very greedy play. Your third misplay in a laning phase. Now, you don't get punished for it, but this was incredibly greedy. If you're tracking the enemy jungler at all, you would expect him to be bottom right now, so you're playing towards the wrong side of your lane. You could have also gotten ganked there. And to prove that, look at this. Xin Zhao's bottom. And it's something that's really easy. If you just find them on the map at some point and you know which camps they've probably been clearing, like he just cleared the red buff up here, he's going to be bottom. So if the Zoe landed that, and the Xin was here, you're dead. And you really do let them roam, like, to their heart's content. You don't follow your laner at all. From over here, you chose to stick on your wave to over here, but realistically you couldn't have shown up to this one because you were at base. But she also left here. This is a wave management thing, and you were saying in your strengths that a wave management was one of your things you were good at, right? Laning phase and wave management. Well, let's see. You did recall on a cannon wave. Okay. Alright, I guess that wasn't that bad of a time to recall. I take that back. That was an okay time to recall, especially since you were out of mana. Okay. Never mind. You you need to ping that at least. Unless you were that confident you could stop it. So you see the jungler bottom, you know his red buff is up. This means he's going to be playing towards the bottom side of the map. Either ward now, which you have 2 wards, by the way, which means you are not aware of vision and you are not warding. You are not tracking the enemy jungler. Hardly tracking your own lane for that. Again, still playing towards the bottom, no vision. Xin Zhao has a really easy gank on you. And your jungler is top lane, so there's no way he's going to come help you. Still playing towards the bottom side. You know, whenever someone plays up to the top like this is a really like kind of nuance of playing mid lane. You can force the enemy laner to play to the opposite side of the lane, which allows the jungler to gank. So she might be over here specifically to force this gank. Now Xin Zhao is not coming mid, but I still need to point out these things because it's really risky. And every risk you take is a potential throw. You're taking a lot of minion damage, but I understand why. She doesn't have mana. That was fine to try and force a trade there. She doesn't have teleport. You see the Riven's coming mid, so you're not pushing. Alright. You still haven't put down a ward in a very long time. Now you're deciding to push. I think that you got a cannon wave coming up too, so that's a really good timer. This is an excellent ward. But if you take this camp, it's kind of defeating the purpose because he's not going to be around there. And you lost your prime time to recall. And then your Zoe is roaming again. Okay. Pushing this in is fine. I would have taken that earlier time to recall though, instead of trying to do the Raptors, because you got like 50 gold for doing this, and it made it so you were not able to show up to the bottom lane Fiesta because you had no health. And if you were to show up in this no vision area, you would have gotten bubbled and then nuked by Zoe. So I understand why you did not show up to this, and I understand why you ended up pushing out this wave, but every play has like a 3-minute setup phase. The setup phase is all of the harass, all of the mana usage, all of the vision, all of the positioning on the map, all of the wave management on the map before a play happens. So once you were in this situation, I agree with what you did. But you should not have been in this situation. You should have been in a position that you could have followed up this gank and, or rather, roam. Because your Zoe is just non-stop roaming. The best way you can respond if your laner is non-stop roaming is 1, having vision of where they're roaming. So if you had set up some wards down here earlier in your laning phase, you would have been able to catch out the Zoe, and she would have had no chance of getting anything over here, and you could have followed it and probably gotten a kill on her. The second way is, of course, wave management, and you've been pushing things into her tower, which is fine. But again, I would have been more concerned about protecting your team, because you've already set your team really far behind with what happened to the Jarvan early. And yeah, I'd be really concerned about that. Because now you're not going to have a front line against their front line. And this isn't a necessary camp steal, because then you chunk yourself even more. And what if the Zoe was waiting over somewhere over here? She turned around, right? Because she was already past you. She's already over here. What if she turned around and bubbled you? This is one of those risks. I agree with this ward, but staying for the camp is totally unnecessary at this stage. It's totally unnecessary. Once you see them all bottom, it's fine to stay for the wave. It's also fine to stay for this wave because you see them bottom. You really do over-prioritize pushing, though. And you stay in your lane again. Do you see all this stuff that's happening? You have absolutely no concern for your team or anything that's happening in the game. You just want a lane. That's not a strong suit of yours. Your laning phase is not a strong suit because you sacrifice your team to lane. Your mechanics in lane might be good, but that's not something I've even been able to see. because you haven't laned against anyone. And you've got an XP lead, but they have an XP lead almost everywhere else on the map. Actually, hang on. What's the Zen? Is the Zen still 5? Actually, somehow the Zen's behind in levels. I have no idea how the Zen was behind in levels there. He really shouldn't be behind in levels. But the bottom lane's a level ahead, which is what I was pointing out. And somehow the Riven's able to do that. I don't, okay. Well played, Riven. And if you're trying to say, how do you respond to someone roaming, right? This Zoe is non-stop roaming. I'm punishing her by pushing in the wave. Well, you're not really getting tower damage, so all you are is denying experience and gold, which you significantly do in a sense of you have 77 minions and she has 33, but your bottom lane is 20 minions behind, and your jungler is probably like, even though he had an XP average, I know he ended up getting some of top lane, so with that gank, so I'm not sure how much of that comes from minions or anything else. But okay, how do you respond to it? My bad. Sidetracked. Vision. Your wards this game have been really lackluster. You had one really good ward here, but you kept a stack of 2 wards in your inventory, and you were not really tracking the enemy jungler and paying no attention to what your Zoe was doing outside of this. If you were ever playing against a Talon, you would have a lot of difficulty with the Talon's roams, because Zoe isn't even as good of roaming. And now this is what happens whenever your bottom lane falls behind like this. They rotate mid. Or they rotate top. I would have rotated top as an AD carry. Again, you completely ignore what's going on over here. One thing you could do to respond to this without actually showing up for it is just get vision over here. If you get vision over here, you can tell where the Zoe is walking. Again, vision, 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 vision. You have a pink ward, you have 2 wards on your trinket. That should tell you something. You ignore the Xin Zhao, and then you get ganked. Awareness is not your strong suit. Strengths: wave control, minimap, CS, vision, laning phase. That's what you said. Minimap? No. Vision? No. Your laning phase, I didn't even get really a chance to see this. Your wave control, you actually do have really good recall timers, so I'll give you wave control. Now I'll go back and watch what happened here, because somehow you guys got something for that. I just assumed you were dead and kind of went to the next thing, went to the next topic. But you see, he shouldn't have been able to get a gank off. And then the Malphite kind of wastes his shit. I don't think he was needed there. Okay. Them staying for this tower is an excellent idea. But this isn't really you, so... This is a great rotation. I'm really happy you're doing this. One problem that I recognize a lot is whenever people play mid lane or top lane or bottom lane, they do not rotate. Rotating to this wave is excellent. It was going to push into you very hard. Your mid lane was already being taken and you weren't needed here. And top lane was also in an okay spot for you to go there just because you could... Well, the Riven was dead, and I don't know where the Renekton was. Where was the Renekton? Renekton was on this turret. So if he decided to keep pushing, which probably wouldn't be a good idea, but these 2 guys are still mid. The Jarvan is dead, right? The Jarvan is dead. You could have also have shown up top because he probably would have been able to get a third of this tower's health. And then whenever the Jarvan respawned or the Riven respawned, they could have caught this wave. But I still think that going bottom was fine. Yeah, Renekton did stay. See? He could have probably gotten some tower damage if he decided to stay a little longer. Yeah. A third of this turret's health is gone. Oh, even more than the third. Not much more than the third. ryze is not good at taking turrets, but he is good at defending turrets. So what you have done is you have caught this wave, and that was good. Someone needed to do that. But you also sacrificed this. So your decision to rotate was good, but you prioritized the wrong wave. I think that you should have been showing up top lane, because you're not going to take this turret. By the time that they all, get their shit back together, someone will be here to stop you, and you would have, if you had stayed this entire time, probably got 70% of this turret. ryze is not very good at taking turrets, but you could have definitely prevented this damage, still caught that entire wave that was denied, and let someone else catch this. The Riven could have caught a little bit back up in lane. I don't know how far behind she is. Yeah, she's not far behind at all. But that matchup favors the Renekton. See, someone showed up. He stopped you. An unusual ult, but not really problematic. Vision, 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 vision. Where's your vision? You know where your vision could have been? Could have been anywhere over here. And I'm not going to say that you baited this, because you didn't really bait this. You were trying to prevent another buff from being stolen, but this is an example of the snowball effect. The Xin Zhao shouldn't be able to do that. And you're not putting the Zoe far enough behind with your pushing, because she's still got 2 kills, which means that she's got, I don't know, each kill is like 12 minions worth. So she's behind you by, she's still behind you. No, wait, assists, right? She's probably even with you, just behind you in XP. By a little bit. You're 9, she's 8. And it's just because you ignored your team early. That should have been another kill on the Varus. And your death here also cost you a turret. So those decisions early, right? Those decisions early that I was talking about, not providing proper vision, you sacrifice your team. That lost you this mid turret because everyone had to show up to this fight. That lost you this buff because Jarvan was behind. Your decisions early sacrifice your team. Now, I'm not. Let me put a disclaimer in here, whatever. You're not gonna follow your laner every time. You're not. That's something that you should be aware of, and I'm not saying you should always follow. Even though I'm saying that it's a problem that you do not follow, your problems are with controlling where they're rotating, because you're putting in no effort to control where they're roaming, and following when needed. Providing vision is staying here level 1 at the first 50 seconds of the game and putting a ward down if they come, so the Jarvan knows that the Zoe is going to try and steal. Your decisions early need a lot of work, and it all comes down to you don't think about your team. Your team is 4/5 of this game of how you're going to win it. So you need to be putting more focus on them, because every play you've done this game has sacrificed them. All you've done is wave clear, and wave clearing isn't how you're going to win a game. You do have good ryze mechanics, though. Ryze is a difficult champion to play, and you're doing a very good job. Okay. So in this situation, you need to ping bot turret, have someone go down here and take this. You just killed their support. The Tristana is half-life and can't wave clear. You don't know where the Xin Zhao is, true, but you do know where the Renekton is, and I believe you saw the Zoe a little while ago, too, mid lane. So there's the Xin Zhao heading top lane, right? Okay, he's coming back for the dragon, trying to steal it, maybe. And yeah, we don't know where the Zoe is. But do you know this is really misprioritizing objectives because one person can fucking wave clear this, and the entire team is going for it. And I know ryze can't do damage to turrets. I did mention that, but you can ping. And you can send your 280 carries down for that turret, maybe even the Jarvan to dive. You can go top lane and stop their Renekton, and Riven can catch this. But what happens is everyone goes for the mid wave. No one goes for the Renekton again. And you overall lose out severely on objectives. And this is where communication comes in. You can type to your team and say, I'm going top, and you can ping this turret, and then someone's still going to go mid. Because that was a huge wave, and everyone wants it. But this turret, it needs to die. And you had a great spot here because the Tristana was recalling, the Malphite was dead. You had 3 people here that could have gone for it. The wave was coming in, a big wave. Call. Make calls. Communicate with your team. Type to them. And you mentioned one of your problems you thought was like watching cooldowns, right? How do you predict important abilities? Well, here's one thing. You have vision of them. They're walking up to you. You know that they're going to come and engage on you. And you stay around. That's how you predict abilities. Don't you don't go for the 2 minions here you don't need. You don't really predict them because you were predicting them. It's just that you greeted again. This is like at least the second time this game that you've greeted for something. Yeah, because you flashed for the Zoe earlier. Well, this is awkward. That worked out, but it should not have. Once again, your decision is to sacrifice your team because you know what? Varus should not be able to wave clear against a Renekton. He's probably going to die. And there wasn't really anything for you to do here. You're going to push out one wave and then you're stuck because you don't know where any of these guys are. Well, Tristana and the Xin Zhao, you don't know where they are. So there's Tristana, wave clearing it back so it doesn't move anywhere. And Varus is half-life. He could have easily died here. You do have wards down now, though. I know yours are the mustache ones, right? This ward, I actually do agree with this game, judging by how much they have been invading you. I normally would not like such a defensive ward, but this is both good against a Zoe, and it's good against their invades, so I like this pink ward. I don't know where your other wards are. They must have just expired and you put them down at the same time. Or no, one's here. This ward's kind of terrible, actually. If they get this deep into your jungle, then you already have problems. And you already have people pushing up for control. Your ward this far back is not going to spot someone out until it's too late, because this is a flanking route. And then now bot lane's dead. So what you need to do is you need to be thinking more about your vision wards, where you put them down. In this situation, I wouldn't have even put this one down. I would have held it in my inventory because you got 3 people that are hard pushing top, and you're going to need to set up one over here, probably, because Zoe is going to be aiming over these walls somewhere, and you're going to need people up top lane. This looks like a hard push, and you're going to need to respond to this quickly. Someone's going to stay bottom and take this. The other 4 of you are going to come top. You don't have any vision over here that you could put down. Yeah, I was very close. But vision, see, if you knew where people were going to be, because you saw 3 of them top lane, then you would have known that there was no reason to put a defensive ward like this over here. It was a waste of a resource, and that's very important. Very important to manage your resources. You kite really far back. There's no reason for you to be kiting that far back. Your team fight needs a little bit of work. So you just rooted him, and you're standing this far back, right? Someone else got hit by the Zoe. Shit. You you can walk forward now, but you're still walking back. If you're trying to avoid the Zen, look, he's going to get rooted, but you're not in position to do anything with the root. If you're waiting cooldowns, Ryze's cooldowns aren't that long, so I don't think you need to be that far back. Again, you're really far back. Really far back. You would have been able to do that little extra damage, 100%. So, positioning and you sacrifice your team. Roaming is something. Oh, and greed. Roaming is something that I wouldn't really say you too much need to worry about, but you do need to worry about your vision control for when people are trying to roam. And you need to worry more about your greed. You are very greedy whenever it comes to plays like this because you're not thinking about what's going to happen. The best case scenario in the play that you kill the Zoe, you kill the Zoe, she no longer has blue buff. You die, you don't have blue buff, Xin Zhao has another blue buff. Best case scenario. So that was a greedy and not worthwhile play. She had teleport, was going to get back to lane. You were going to be behind in XP again. Not worthwhile. That staying for those extra 2 minions, you had to blow flash for nothing. It did end up working out up here, but it's not always going to be the case. Your pink ward placement is fine. Your yellow trinkets you need to use a lot more, and with better predictions. You obviously are not tracking the enemy jungler at all, and you're not tracking your laner very well. So you need to put some emphasis on that. I talk more about that in other videos. I wasn't looking into it this one. That's just, yeah. So one of your weaknesses you were talking about was knowing when to join skirmishes and when to leave it. Um, Again, that's very situation dependent and it relies a lot on what kind of setup. Every game, every play has a like 3 minute setup phase, like that I was talking about earlier. So you weren't in a position to show up to a lot of these skirmishes that were happening bottom, but you could have better prepared for them. So it's a management of your mana and health in the laning phase in order to be able to show up for it. I don't know why she canceled that. Yeah, again, your ryze mechanics are actually really good. Ryze is a difficult champion. You gotta stay in the circle to damage him, so yeah, you make the right call to just get out of dodge. Alright. Greed! Jeez. There you go again. Trying to show up to the minion wave that's nowhere to be found. There's no reason for you to walk that way. There's nothing down here. Okay. Your resource management in lane is something that's when to know when to push and when to know when to recall. I think that's the biggest questions. Um, Early, the level 1, I would have been trying to push more. That other time, I would have tried to recall so you'd have resources to respond to the invade instead of staying for the raptors. You shouldn't need to blow flash here either. There was no reason for you to step all the way up to this wave. You had no turret, you had vision over here, but you had no vision over here, and you knew they had crowd control. See, look at this. You see the Malphite comes over? And you still greed like shit to this minion wave. Right up to the... You walk even to them. You waste your flash. And see, you catch the wave under turret anyways, so it's not like it was necessary for you to walk that way. And if you had flash here, you probably could have killed the Zoe. Where are you? You ulted? You abandon your team again. Do you see this consistency in abandoning your team? How easy would it have been to have gotten that kill if you had your team there? What the? Okay, she got it anyways. That was just some high quality BM. And they overstayed. And they overchased. Alright, so you're going to catch the wave. Well, let's see. Yeah, that's a fine idea. Since the Riven's not there without TP, or she does have TP, but catching this wave right now is a fine idea. They don't really have a whole lot that can do Baron. They could do it, but it'd be slow. Your Riven wouldn't be able to be there, but between the Jarvan and the Varus, I think they could either poke them off or maybe steal. It's a fine idea. You do generally need to be concerned about when you clear bot wave, though, once Baron's up, Baron is a huge objective, and you need to be present for that. So just keep some awareness of that. This is a fine time to be doing this, but it seems like you're very attracted to minion waves. Like you stay for an extra one here without any vision and without knowing where the Zhao is. There's the Tristana. This is your one ward saving your life, right? It's not a safe trip. And you're staying for this? Well, if you're staying for this, again, you're overstaying for this not only because he could have showed up here and maybe killed you, but you're sacrificing your team for the, like, 7th time. Because this is going to turn into a 5v4. He has teleport. 5v4 over here. You're for some reason bottom. Catching the wave, the first wave, was great, but then I was telling you you needed to be present for Baron. And here you are, 2 waves later, staying bottom. Ryze does not take turrets quickly. Ha! So now if I was them, I would take Baron. Actually, their Tristana died. Unfortunate. That was well played. If you're going to play like that, though, you really need to make sure you're taking TP. I know you took Cleanse in order to make sure you would be able to survive the Zoe, but you missed the first Baron fight, which if the if the Tristana didn't misplay this and not jump onto the blast cone, she would have survived and they would have gotten Baron earlier. You cannot rely on them misplaying. This is a good ward. This is a good one. Why are you doing red buff? Did you deny it? Well, they denied you a turret. And if he had kept his stun, they could have denied you the red buff that you just had. Now, here's a good example for a fight that I would 100% have been showing up for. Uh, which times to show up for a skirmish and when not to, right? Well, let's make sure that you just have your vision. Okay, so that's cheating, I guess, because I saw it with their vision. Yeah, I wouldn't know to show up for this, because they were all really, really low, but I wouldn't know how many of them would be there, and I wouldn't know who was waiting, because Zoe could have been waiting with a bubble. This is kind of risky to show up for, so your hesitation to walk to the wave first instead of down here is justified. I'll be with you in a bit. I would have targeted the Zoe there instead of the Tristana just because the Triss has GA, but it was fine. Overall, pretty fine. Okay. You go top wave. I like that. I like that. I like that a lot, actually. Not only are you able to 1v1 the Renekton, who probably had to build armor, he has a lot of armor, but you overstay a little bit because you don't put your vision down first. Or not overstay, overextend, my bad. Yep. Vision. Alright. That's pretty much game. Because after that, they can just choose which inhib they want, and Baron, and whatever. So your biggest problem, by far, is your greed and your sacrificing of your team. You sacrifice your team throughout the entire game in various ways, from just trying to teleport to the Zoe while they're diving your carries, from ignoring the invades, all of the invades, and as I said, I'm not saying to show up to all of them, but there are some you need to show up for, and there are some that you can prevent from happening by managing your resources better. The top red invade, right? This skirmish over here would not have happened if you did not greed for the Zoe and die. The roam bottom you could have shown up for if you had taken a wave, recalled, and then walked down here. With the situations that you have, you always just sit on your wave. Your ryze mechanics are good, which is probably why you feel like that's your strength, because you just want to out 1v1 someone. But you never really get the chance this game, which happens more frequently than you'd think. Whenever you can't 1v1 someone, if you can just wave clear and roam, you do that. Your resource management with wards also is pretty atrocious. Your early game wards were either non-existent or very bad, and it's really important because you don't track the jungler well. I talk more about that in other reviews, so if you're interested, probably watch a jungle review or something like that, and I'll talk about where you can predict the enemy junglers. But you play towards the side of the lane that he should be at, and you let the Zoe roam by having no vision control for where she's roaming. Your split pushing was very greedy down here. They had the potential to get Baron probably only once. You probably only gave them one opportunity. But that was really greedy to stay for these extra waves, again with the greed problem. Your greed also made you walk this way in front of 3 people, which blew flash. Your greed made you walk up to 2 minions, which let you blow flash. Greed is a very serious problem for you. But then you have a weird positioning thing where you back off and you spend like probably in that fight, I don't know which fight that was. I'm not going to go back to it, but you probably spend 5 seconds outside of the fight, which is like probably 700 damage from ryze. And you were not at threat. You were not in danger with where they were. You stand out for 700 damage worth. Could have easily killed the Tristana. Could have probably forced another objective. Could maybe even have Baroned. I don't remember what time that was. Let's see. Predictions, greed, sacrificing your team. Your CSing is fine. Your wave management is pretty good with recalling. Your mechanics are fine. Your lane positioning does need work, as I said, with predicting where the jungler is. But that's something that's, if you up your awareness, you will naturally start to fix. But yeah, vision, greed, include the greed extending from like every aspect of your play. Those are going to improve your play a lot. And I think that's it. That's all I've got for you. Good luck, my friend.